Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. This is going to be probably my last video until my prediction for uh, the upcoming election day 2025 in the United States. That's going to be taking place tomorrow. After this video, as unless there's another death, which I really highly doubt there will be. But the governor of Kentucky passed away. The former governor, the 56th governor, that is Governor Martha Lane Collins, the female governor of Kentucky and former lieutenant governor, passed away suddenly at a pretty old age. At the age of 88. She was born on December 7th, 1936, and passed away on November 1st, 2025, in her home in Lexington, Kentucky. She is a Democrat. So she does have a pretty simple electoral history. I want to believe that her run for lieutenant governor was in 1979. We are aware that, let's take a look here. Yeah, the lieutenant governor's office ran separately from the governor's office. So it's conjointed today, I want to believe. Yeah, it's conjointed today. It wasn't conjointed back then. It was actually pretty split. They were two separate races, two separate tickets. As you can see, 1979, John Y. Brown Jr., he ended up running, and he ended up winning against the Republican Louis Nunn. But he's not the guy we're talking about today. In fact, we're talking about the gal, the former lieutenant governor, and that is in that lieutenant governor's race. And this is the results we're actually looking at, this separate race, and that is that Martha Lane Collins actually does a little bit better than John Brown that he did in the gubernatorial race. And we'll go over that in a little bit. But first, I want to go over the primary results, because if there is any, otherwise we won't talk about it. But yes, there are primary results, and you'll see that Martha Collins ends up winning the primary in a very, very, very divided field. You'll see that she defeated a whole list of opponents like William M. Cox, who got 22.44% of the popular vote. You got Todd Hollenbach, who got 20.39% of the popular vote. Joe Prather, who got 19.45% of the popular vote. Richard H. Lewis, 9.3% of the popular vote. Jim Vernon, who got 4.6% of the popular vote, and Charlie T. Rowland, who got 1.47% of the popular vote. Now, normally in this day of age, this would be bad, okay? If you were a Democrat or a Republican, it doesn't really matter, because it shows that your party is divided. They're not united under one candidate. But back then, it was fair game, right? Whoever wins, and we'll put our disappointment aside and rally our support behind that candidate. It's somewhat the same today. You'll see a lot of let's just say, I will just use the current New Jersey gubernatorial race. You'll see New Jersey was a very divided field, similar to Kentucky in 1979. All the Democratic candidates, they endorsed Mikey Sherrill, for the Democratic governor. She ended up winning around the same margin as Martha Lane Collins in a very divided primary. However, her support, and mainly the anti-establishment far left side of the Democratic Party, they don't like her. They're having a hard time, and they rather follow someone like a Ross Baraka and forgetting the other guy, but Steve Fulop. But yes, they rather follow those two gentlemen, but not Mikey Sherrill. She's too right-wing in their minds, coming from a perspective of a far leftist and a average progressive, too centrist, too moderate, too establishment. So they're kind of divided. But back then, 1979, very common. Put your frustrations aside, all in for the victory for the party. And you're seeing the same case this today day and age, but there's more friction. There's more, let's just say, frustration and more division in the Democratic Party than there was in the Democratic Party in 1979. Yes, you have a very divided Democratic Party, but as you can clearly see from the results, Collins ends up pulling it off, beating Harold Rogers by 63.17% of the popular vote. You'll notice, comparing from the primary, you'll see her area is mainly in the Frankfort area and the capital area around here, north central Kentucky. This is where most people are. And this is where she does her best in the general, okay? Solid margins. They're probably voting for her over name recognition. We can actually take a look where she actually resides, so we can get better understanding where we're coming from here. She was from Lexington, Kentucky, and if I'm mistaken, yes, Lexington is in the county of Fayette, and that is right here. And so that makes sense. It wasn't her strongest county picking up, but I don't know if she actually lived there at the time, but she did reside there, and she did perform significantly, 66.8%. I would imagine, 81%, 80%, the numbers up here, they're really feeling the energy up here. And that's where her support mainly came from in the lieutenant governor's race. Harold Rogers' support, all the way down here with Jackson County, Owsley County, when it comes to this. So yes, you do have a very divided primary, but despite the divided primary, which a lot of people, I would think at the time, would have hindered Martha Collins, but Martha Collins ended up pulling it off in a landslide, perhaps maybe due to the help and the support from her colleague and running mate, really. That is, blanking on the name, of course, but that is John Brown. And you'll see even he had a divided primary, not as divided as the Democratic primary, still divided 29%. Of the vote for, and then again, back then, there were more Democrats in Kentucky. Keep in mind, more Democrats in Kentucky than there were Republicans. More Democrat options. You have a long list of Democrats from U.S. senators, U.S. governors, U.S. representatives, attorney generals, secretary of states, auditors, treasurers, etc., etc. And you don't really have much Republicans. So they have a variety of long lists. You'll see Republicans rallied behind Louis Nunn, got 79%. Very good. And he was the former governor, so a lot of people said, hey, Nunn could pull it off. But that didn't really seem to matter, as Kentucky usually votes Democratic in state elections, as they vote for Republicans in presidential runs. All right, let's jump all the way to specifically the governor's race for when she ends up running for governor in 1983. That is, yes, Martha Collins. I want to believe Jim Browning is John Y. Brown is, of course, the term limited. I want to believe at the time Kentucky only allowed people to serve one term, just like Virginia allowed their governor to serve one term, because that's what it's looking like. Judging by the history of the previous results, I can safely say that is the case. That changed under the administration of Brereton Jones, who we did a video on in 2023, very long time ago. He ended up changing that. But Martha LAYNE COLLINS ends up winning her term, defeating Jim Bunning, who is a Republican, 44.11%. She does not perform as well as she did in the, let's just say, lieutenant governor's race. But she did perform better in the Democratic primary. Let's actually take a look at that Democratic primary and see where we're coming from. This is 1983 gubernatorial race. Nope, this is the Republican race. Never mind. yes, you'll see 74% for Jim Booney. Despite a unified Republican ticket, he still loses. That's because Democrats just have a broader coalition in general. Governor's race. This is Democratic primary. Yep, a divided field. But just like before, she has her strongest areas over here. Like the general election results generally say, this is probably where she resides. She died in Fayette, Lexington, Kentucky, which is in Fayette County, which is a pretty populated county. I can't imagine she living there her entire life. I would imagine she had to have resided over here, as the primary and general election results would have or have claimed at the time. And then again, let's give credit. Fayette County was pretty conservative in the 1980s, the 1970s, not like its neighbors, as they were very progressive, very liberal, very popular with the farmers union and the mining unions. So that was also a thing. You'll see the divided field would ideally make it difficult for Martha Collins to get all the way to like 60 or 50%, but she did breach 50%. She didn't breach 60%, understandably. It's just a vastly divided field with two major candidates, Harvey I. Sloan and Grady Stumbo. Okay, Sloan getting 33.28% and Stumbo getting at 30.34%. And yeah, you'll see the Stumbo counties are mainly over here. This is probably where the Stumbo base mainly comes from when it comes to where Grady Stumbo resides. And then you have Harvey Sloan, who probably resides, it's not clear where he resides. He's doing fairly well. His best county, well, you have Casey County also having good performance there, but you also have a significant performance for Sloan in Jefferson County. It's not really clear, as Stumbo makes it very clear where he resides in the mining areas of eastern Kentucky, right over here. But yes, that area very notoriously liberal because of the mining regions, like West Virginia, southern West Virginia was at the time. And despite that, I think Collins making a good reach to the farmer unions and the labor unions, the mining unions, was enough for her to clinch victory. She won in the right area. She won Jefferson County, has Louisville, Kentucky. That's a county you want to have and want to keep. Fayette County. And with that, she won the election pretty single-handedly. And although she did underperform her lieutenant governor's run 4 years ago. So that pretty much includes the governorship and the political office of Martha Layne Collins. As far as I'm looking at, it looks like she stops here. She did participate in the 1984 Democratic presidential primary, as a permanent chair of the Democratic National Convention in 1984. And that saw the nomination of Walter Mondale, so she was a part of that process. She ultimately passed away at her home at the age of 88. So anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Rest in peace to Martha Layne Collins, and great condolences to her family and her loved ones and supporters. I'll see you all in the next political episode.